Violence rules, predator prey. That never changes.
I'm in a situation where I can't run from. But my whole time in the streets, that's all I ever been doing is fighting. So I'm looking like I'm in a place where I always trained for, but just didn't know it.
The sad part is the alternative to violence is more violence.
The documentary is called Rikers. It focuses on the experience of men and women formerly detained in one of the most notorious jails in America. Veteran journalist Bill Moyers is the film's executive director. It's my great pleasure and honor to welcome him here now. Thank you for being here.
Good to be with you.
I want to start with the film, which in many ways I think segues to where we are at this moment in America. It's about this human rights disaster in many ways that is just off the tip of Queens in New York City. Why did you want to be part of this film?
I wanted to put a human face on the statistics and stories in the print press that were coming out about the culture of cruelty there. This was 15 or 16 months ago. And to raise the question, is this how, no matter what the offense is, we want to treat people? What does it say? All of the stories that have been told, powerful investigative reporting, what does it say about our society as a civilization and as a democracy? And I don't appear in the film. We interviewed these men and women at length, and they tell the story in their own experience, in their own voices.
You know, it's a place of great cruelty institutionally. The thought I had watching it, and I watched it after the election, was here we're sitting and talking about blue America and red America and racism, and you know, this is in New York City. This institution is created by the mechanisms of the state of, you know, one of the most, quote, liberal places in the whole country.
Oh yeah, right here in the 2 miles from the financial center, from the media center, from the theatrical center, and we are oblivious to what's going on out there. It's a little bit like what happened at Abu Ghraib. Oh no, we don't torture, we don't mistreat the prisoners of war. And then Abu Ghraib came with those photographs of American soldiers sitting on top of those bodies, and it happens right here. I mean, there are 7,500 to 8,000 men and women out there right now as we speak. You know, 80% of them have not been convicted of a crime. Right. 40% of them are suffering some form of mental illness. And we've all been oblivious to it.
I want to ask you about, you're someone who has been part of politics, you've been in the White House, you've been a journalist. I mean, what is your reaction to what happened in this country last week?
Well, it's very complicated because I think there were many tributaries that flowed into the river, that ran to the Gulf, many of them. I think essentially, we're right to say there was this great concern out there that many people missed about inequality and the growing gap between the 1% and everybody else. I think it was a white lash. I think, you know, 48% of the country, the voters of the country, were trying to push back against the triumph of women finally, getting a woman president, and against the people of color, the changing color of the country. I think there was a big pushback there. Then I think the press for too long enabled Trump to get away with lies that became beliefs in the minds and hearts of many people out across the country, his followers. And then I think it was the two parties have been rotting. The two parties in Washington have been rotting for a long time. Although if Trump has his way, he's going to restore the party in Washington because it's going to be a party of insiders once again. A year that began in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party as a uprising of the people is going to end as the triumph of the power brokers.
I want to focus on one thing you said about the media's role in this, because I think it's something a lot of people are talking about. And obviously, there's no the media, right? There's a million different outlets.
You're in the media. I'm in the media. Bill O'Reilly's in the media.
Right. Yeah. As of now, you know, fake news sites that appear on Facebook don't even have the kind of pretense to factualness, right? But you know, one thing that struck me was, if you look at the editorial boards of the American newspapers, and if you looked at the coverage of our sort of tentpole papers, Washington Post, New York Times, they were quite critical. They did report out.
Yeah, no, in time, they really did.
And yet, the whatever trust there may be between those voices of authority and a large swath of American voters is entirely gone and eroded.
When I was growing up a long time before you came around, the saying was, a lie is halfway around the world before the truth gets its shoe tied. Now a lie is 10 times around the world before you even get out of the bed and put the shoe on. The Facebook, the Twitter, the speed of communications today, it's hard for lies. It's hard for a squad of lies to catch up with battalions of a squad of the truth to catch up with battalions of lies, and that's one thing we're overwhelmed with them. It's the Niagara Falls on the body politic of this country, just bringing toxic poison into the system.
You worked in the White House.
Right, 4 years.
And right now I think there is this question about the strength of American institutions, liberal institutions, the strength of a kind of restraining set of norms embedded throughout the federal government, from the civil service all through the national security sphere, to restrain any impulses that might fall outside the boundaries of what we consider American constitutional democracy. Having been in that White House, how confident are you about that?
Not at all. I mean, and I have to be frank and say that that part of this gap between fact-based journalism and untrue journalism began with the credibility gap, the Vietnam War, the continuing insistence on putting a good face on what was going bad out there, and then Watergate deepened it, and and then Reagan's very fluent ability to deceive and misrepresent. It's entered into the body politic. It's entered into our arteries, and all governments lie. There's a new documentary out about that right now, and our defense against those lies is crumbling, because you know what's happening to newspapers. Newspapers are in really serious financial trouble, not enough revenue to report the investigative journalism that needs to be done. And this medium, our medium, television, your medium and mine, is infused with entertainment, so that an entertainer becomes more believable, in fact, in the minds of people out there than a truth teller. And so I'm not optimistic. And now, you know, I said to a friend of mine on Wall Street, how do you feel about the market? And he said, I'm optimistic. I said, why do you look so worried then? He said, because I'm not sure my optimism is justified. I want to believe that the truth will out, but I don't really believe it's going to anytime soon. And the great danger of Bannon being in the same metaphorical room right outside the Oval Office with the former chairman of the Republican National Committee, you're wedding the establishment with the ideology. You're putting a propagandist and one who's not truthful. A tabloid publisher is going to be the senior advisor to the President of the United States. You showed some editorials in your previous segment of the headlines on Breitbart's website. The one that really roiled to me said Gabby Giffords, the congresswoman who was almost killed by a gunman, Gabby Giffords, the human shield for the gun control movement. I mean, how can these people be so brutish, so cruel, so insensitive to what that headline suggests? I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a sort of the sheer indecency is part of the shtick, and there's a question about whether that wears thin with the American people or not.
And we're going to have to honor, fund, and support the truth tellers. It's going to take independent journalists, because newspapers are in trouble. We're going to have to find a way to support independent journalists who dare to tell the truth.
Bill Moyers, it's such a great honor. It's a pleasure. Come back anytime.
Okay. Thank
Whenever
you
you
very
want.
much. All right.
Great to have you here. The documentary is called Rikers. It premieres tomorrow night on WNET in New York. We'll stream on the website rikersfilm.org as well.